Hello there viewers, Axel here. Welcome to another Axel Tech video. It has once again been a while since the last one. Hasn't been a whole lot of big Linuxy releases that have caught my interest, and I've also been kind of sick on and off since the start of January, as well as focusing on college stuff and just, I guess, life things in general. So, yeah, today we are taking a look at Solus 4.1. So this is not going to be an in-depth review or anything. This is going to be my impressions of both Solus, which I have not looked at since the 4.0 release, as well as the KDE Plasma Desktop, which I also have not looked at in quite a while. And with Solus 4.1, it's very easy to say that the headlining feature is they finally have an official Plasma ISO. You could install it on Solus previously by just manually installing it either through the terminal or through the software center, but now they officially have a ISO for it, so it's finally production ready, if you will. So, I've already got it installed on my test machine here. Let's go ahead and log in. And I do want to mention this isn't really, related to the desktop environment or anything, but I like their selection of wallpapers for this release. They're very nice. Very nice. Anyway, first thing that I want to do, let me go into system settings. And I'm going to have things to say about system settings in a bit here. For those who may remember, when I looked at whichever video that, however long ago that that video I did on Linux Mint, I don't remember which release it was. It was 19 something. I had a lot of criticism about the system settings in Linux Mint, and then I got a lot of flack for complaining about there being too many settings when my main point was it was how they were organized. But I probably didn't get that across too well, so, it's fair. Anyway, first impressions. I will say, whenever I've had to use Windows 10, like at school and stuff lately, I immediately think of KDE Plasma, especially the light Windows 10 theme with like the white taskbar, because by default, unlike KDE Neon, and I don't know about Kubuntu, but definitely KDE Neon, Plasma also has like a light theme by default, and like the Windows 10 light theme just makes me think Plasma. So that's just interesting. Anyway, speaking of, if you are a fan of the Windows 10 interface and overall a more traditional desktop, you're probably going to feel right at home with KDE because you have your application launcher at the bottom left, clock on the bottom right, and then the system tray also around there. So very familiar if you're used to Windows, which is good for people who like that. Difference being, at least on the Solus edition here, it's not an icon view by default. You have the icon and information, which is fine. Anyway, I need to connect to Wi-Fi. Now, first thing that bugs me is, like, on GNOME-based stuff, it separates the connections based on the device. With this list, it's kind of all in one thing. Now, normally that's not an issue because why would you have multiple Wi-Fi adapters in the same computer? So, the, on my test machine here, the internal Wi-Fi adapter, which is just a PCI Express card in there, it sucks, and I'm too lazy to take it out, so I have both that still in there, as well as a USB one plugged in, because that actually has a solid connection. So, yeah, now, normally, it's not going to be an issue if it doesn't separate the Wi-Fi connections by device, but it's still a little thing that's annoying for my particular use case here. I know that's not going to affect most people, but still a little annoying for me. Although, based on this one being up here by itself and these two being down here, I'm going to assume this is the USB one because the connection is actually good. So yeah, that's a good indicator, because I don't have the antennas on the internal one right now because it wasn't working. I should probably actually take it out of the computer, but then I'd have to open it up, and it's a small form factor case, so that would be kind of a hassle. So I haven't. Okay, are we already connected? No, setting network address. Okay. I can read, I promise. But it is small text. There we go. So nice thing with the Plasma desktop is you do actually get like like brief, that's not the right word, some amount of connection info when you just open up the network indicator, so you can see like, okay, cool, data is flowing. That's all well and good. You can go away now. What is this one? Let's show desktop. We got the Bluetooth indicator, networks, most recent device, so that'd be my USB drive that I just installed this from, and volume stuff. Now, one thing I do always like to give credit to KDE for is the default audio settings management is actually pretty good and kind of reminiscent of Pulse Audio volume control. And that's fantastic because Pulse Audio volume control is fantastic. So you get basically all of the options you would have in that in here, plus a little bit more. Like the simultaneous output, you would actually need to do like Pulse Audio Press for that, or just do stuff through the command line if you're savvy with that. So yeah, I always do appreciate the Plasma Desktop audio settings because they're pretty robust, so that's awesome. Okay, I brought up system settings earlier. So back when I did that Linux Mint video, I said, what the heck's with all the settings? They're just like so there. I want to reiterate, I didn't get it across very well in that video, but my main point was that it's not necessarily bad that there's a ton of settings exposed, it's just how they were organized was kind of crap. And I don't know if it's just because Linux Mint settings use like more of a grid view, whereas Plasma and GNOME have a side list like this, which, speaking of, I do think that Plasma's is better than GNOME's because they are organized by category. So anyway, I don't know if it's that, because I do like elementary settings, which is also a grid. There's also fewer of them, but pretty much any important setting that I can think of is in the elementary settings, whereas with Linux Mint, it's just like a bunch of stuff where it's like, I'm not sure where what I'm looking for would be, which, to be fair, every good system settings app does have a search feature. So, you know, that does help to work around that, but you also kind of have to know the name of the setting, but then you can also just search keywords, so it's, eh. Anyway, I do like the settings app. I think that things are well organized because they're very clearly under these categories, and what's in those categories makes sense, and they're not like super vague names, which some of the stuff in Linux Mint was kind of like, okay, this could be the thing I'm looking for, but then that could also be the thing I'm looking for. Wasn't super clear, but with Plasma they are pretty clear. So, did I do this yet? Yes, I did. Hooray. Right, one thing I do want to mention with Plasma. Previous versions that I have used, it did not have it as simple as turning the acceleration profile on and off. So I don't know if they like switched it over to lib input or something, or if it was using something else, some other backend before. Because this is a lot more reminiscent of how like GNOME does it and elementary. So yeah, I'm glad it's this simple now, because it used to be like a bunch of sliders, which was really weird. So that's a good improvement there. Let's look at Solus specific stuff. Although I did give you fair warning, this would also be KDE impressions. So let's see, Firefox, Solus 4.1, Fortitude. Now, wasn't 4.0 also Fortitude? Is it just using the same code name because it's a point release, I guess? I'm assuming that's why, because I thought 4.0 was also Fortitude. I'm pretty sure 4.0 was also Fortitude, but it is just a point release, not like a major version bump, so that's fair enough. Plasma ships with, okay, so the Plasma edition ships with Eliza for audio playback. I have used that before, it's pretty good. And SM Player for video playback. Not as familiar with that. Let's see, multimedia. Another instance where I will give credits is the application launcher. I do, of course, I prefer like the GNOME application launcher and like Elementaries over more traditional ones like this, but Plasma's is very nice because you have sensible categories. You also have like computer specific things like your settings and info and the software center. So while I do prefer the GNOME and Elementary OS approaches, I do still appreciate Plasma's. It's good stuff here too. Anyway, multimedia, so we got media player, SM player. Okay. Not much to say about it. I mean, it does fit in with the desktop pretty well. So, all right, SM player. And we also have... Okay, wait. So it has SM player. It also has barebones MPV. Interesting. Is SM player? I thought no. Okay, no. SM player isn't that based on something other than MPV, or is it like also based on MPV? I'm not at all familiar with SM player. Like I know I've heard the name before. I've briefly looked at it before. I thought it was something other than MPV though. Anyway, Elisa music player, quite nice. And okay, also something else that I've always appreciated with Plasma is like everything just feels super fluid, which is fantastic, especially when compared to somewhat older releases of GNOME, because GNOME has gotten a lot better in recent releases, but like somewhat older releases of GNOME, yeah, Plasma has always felt more fluid, so glad to see that that has, of course, continued. Because if you follow Jason Evangelo, apparently Plasma is just about as lightweight as like XFCE, which is crazy with how many like features you get with it as well. Anyway, Liza music player, nothing bad to say about that. Okay. And of course, since Solus is a curated rolling release, they do keep the kernel fairly up to date, so we have 5.4.12. Very nice. Updated Mesa. Okay, desktop specific stuff, because most of the other updates were kind of more back-end things. So, of interest to some, not particularly of interest to me, though. Alright, so Solus' latest release of the flagship Budgie desktop, 10.5.1, Abomination Running App. That's a fun name. GNOME updates. They ship with the latest 3.34 stack. Which it does remind me, one thing that I do remember with Solus is that because of Budgie, they're still using, like, last that I saw, they're still using the old version of Nautilus to have desktop icon functionality for Budgie. I don't know if that's still the case. I was also about to apt search. That's not how you do things in Solus. Solus. Get package 5. Okay, search. Nautilus. So is that still the case? I don't know. I don't see info from here. Okay. Info. No, wait. Yes. Info. Nautilus. Not installed. Version information. Yeah, so they do still use 3.26 because of desktop icons. Yeah, hopefully they can get that sorted out sometime soonish, because that's a really old version of Nautilus by now. So, anyway, now we get to perhaps the main event of this release. So the new addition to the Solus family, Solus Plasma Edition. Solus Plasma Edition has been a long sought after experience by current and prospective users alike, melding our ability to create a curated out-of-the-box experience with the sophistication of the Plasma desktop experience. Yeah, so I believe, yeah, so this is the latest version of Plasma. Latest version of the applications. Cute. Let's see. Right, so it seems like this is a custom theme for Solus Plasma Edition, Solus Dark. So it's a custom theme that is darker than Breeze Dark, which brings it closer to the style of the other Solus editions, which use the Plata GTK theme as their default. Let's see, they changed, right, this is their refinements to the Plasma desktop experience. Changing the position of the show desktop widget inside the system tray, so I don't know where it's normally at, but I guess it's here now in Solus version, the Solus version. Creating a custom layout of the digital clock widget. Right, it's not like this in default Plasma. Right, I didn't even like really notice that, because usually when I've used Plasma, I've kind of made it look similar to this. So I just didn't even think about it. But yeah, no, normally it's just the numbers of the, like, what time it is. Okay, that's cool. Shortening the timeout for logout from 30 to 10 seconds. Okay. See, Solus-specific integrations for KDE applications and frameworks. So, K1 will default to centering windows. That's another change that I usually do myself. Line numbers in Kate are enabled by default. Okay, so speaking of that, as far as KDE applications, there's like two text editors that I'm familiar with, Kwrite and Kate. So, do they only ship? No, they ship both. They do ship both. So we got Kwrite, which is supposed to be simpler than Kate, and then we got Kate, which, I mean, at first glance, they're not that different. You just have like more buttons on Kwrite. Uh, I'm sure there's a good reason for them shipping both, but at first glance, it's just kind of like, why do I have two text editors? Granted, at least it does also say that Kate is the advanced text editor, whereas Kwrite is not. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing? Okay. So, I'm sure there's a good reason for including both. To the untrained eye, I'm not really sure why they include both, because as far as I can tell, they're both text editors anyway, and if like you're a programmer coming over to Plasma, you probably already have your favorite that you're going to use instead anyway. So, not sure I totally understand why they include both, but usually the Solus team does things for a reason, so I'm sure there's a reason for it. I just don't understand it. Single click is enabled by default, which, well, isn't that already a default Plasma thing, or did they change that? As far as I was aware, that was always a default Plasma thing. Which, interestingly enough, that is basically also the same behavior that Elementary has. Although, the immediate counter-argument there is that Plasma makes it easy to change that, whereas Elementary doesn't. So I was about to say, geez, you don't see people complaining about that in Plasma, but one, no, I have seen people complain about that in Plasma, but it's also easy to change in Plasma. So never mind. Anyway, yeah, we'll leave that single click. Tap to click is enabled for Synaptic touchpads. Plasma Edition ships with the following default applications. So yeah, usual Solus defaults are Firefox, Thunderbird. So we have Eliza as the music player. We have SM player as the default video player, which I already saw. Conversation as the default IRC program, which is with setup IRC Solus server for support. I am assuming that meant that it is set up with the Solus IRC server. And also has KDE Connect out of the box, which that's actually pretty freaking cool. Yeah, KDE Connect out of the box. Nice. Nice. You know, since that's on F-Droid, I wonder... I need to try something. Be right back. There we go. Hooray! Okay, cool. My phone is now connected to the test machine. Yay! Oh god, that is definitely something I'd love to see in Elementary, is some kind of, like, KDE Connect implementation. I know that Cassidy James has expressed interest in that. I think it was him. Yeah, I think he responded to one of my tweets about that. And there was like also another third-party app that was being worked on that hasn't been worked on in a while. But yeah, that sort of integration, that would be so good in Elementary. But we do have it in Plasma, and you can get GS Connect on GNOME. So yay for some form of Android integration. Anyway, that works just fine. And okay, that seems to be about it for the release notes. Now, one thing I am curious about... There's another video on the new Solus release by, I was going to say Chicken, but I guess he's Shickle now. And in the comments, the maintainer of the Plasma edition, or well, I guess of the Plasma components for Solus, responded to things. I'll need to bring that up in a second. Oh man, tons of credits there. Anyway, let me go find that video real quick. Whoops. Oh god. If I can type today, that'd be great. Okay. YouTube. Solus 4.1 Shekel. Yeah, okay. Let's close that real quick. Yeah, Geertablulu said he's the plasma maintainer. I know like a while back there was somebody else doing it, so I guess he left the Solus team or something. I want to say, I think it was like Peter something. Not this Peter. Different Peter. Oh, that's me. That's me. Yeah, I don't quite remember the name, but there was... Yeah, so I guess it's a different maintainer now, which might also explain why it did take this long for the Plasma Edition to finally come to a production-ready release. Anyway, now that we've gone over the release notes, yeah, overall, you know, every time that I look at Solus, it is... Oh, what did I just click? Oh, right, Plasma integration for Firefox. That's a thing as well. Sure, we can add that. So yeah, most of this was kind of more looking at Plasma more so than it's... hey, look, it's Solus, but I feel like there's not a whole lot else to say about Solus that I haven't already said before because, you know, I like that it's a curated rolling release, and when I have had it installed, I haven't had any issues as far as, like, updates breaking anything. Mostly my issues were due to the lack of, like, software support for, like, things that I could get on Ubuntu or Ubuntu-based distros that I didn't have on Solus. Mostly, like, driver stuff, like proprietary driver stuff, which, to be fair, I don't really use anymore, but there is still little things like that that have kept me away from Solus as my main distro, as well as nowadays just loving the Elementary OS desktop. I don't see myself switching from Elementary as my daily driver anytime soon. But there are plenty of people who do not like the Elementary OS desktop, plenty of people who love KDE Plasma, who are probably very excited about this Solus release. So if you are a big fan of Plasma and you like the curated rolling release model that Solus has, then consider giving it Consider giving it a try if you have not already. I definitely would recommend. And yeah, as far as Plasma, I do prefer the more streamlined approach that GNOME and Elementary OS have, but I know that there's a ton of people who like having a lot of options available to them. KDE is perfect for you then. Well, could be perfect for you. So it's still very solid. Not my cup of tea, but it is very, yeah. But it is still a very nice desktop environment. Anyway, I installed that extension and I didn't even check like what I can do with it. Well, I don't know why I'm trying to look now when I closed Firefox. Anyway, yay for Solus, yay for updated Plasma, and yay for nice default wallpapers. Till next time. This has been Akzel. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later. That's the wrong mouse. Stop recording.